All right, guys, welcome back to another episode with All In with the Cooks. Today we're going to be talking about how we built up our team at Quality and all the trials and tribulations and the things that we've changed to make our company culture a success.
Yep, the evolution has been a long one. 17 years we've been doing this, and I think I've made just about every mistake you could make when it comes to leadership. So with that said, going all the way back to 2008, got a crazy story. And that is when I first bought the company. It was just me and my dad. I asked my dad to move from San Jose to help me answer the phones. And I was still being trained by the original owner, Aaron Bewley. And in that time period, he was training me. We were tinting cars. We had a customer come in. These people asked me if I was hiring because they were looking for a job for a son. First red flag, right? They're looking for a job for their son. He's not doing it themselves. He was too shy to talk to me. They said, we'd love for our son to work for you. Are you hiring? I was like, I'm actually not right now. I'm still learning how to do this myself. They ended up approaching me with a deal I couldn't refuse. And that deal was, we will actually pay his paycheck if you'll let him work here. So you don't have to pay him anything. We'll give you, I know it's crazy, we'll give you the money every 2 weeks. You can put it in your account and then write him a check from the business bank account. And he doesn't ever need to know that we're giving you the money. And we want to do that because we just want him to be around you and get the experience and the mentorship. I was like, well, I can't pass that up. And just a little bit of background. These were two sophisticated people that had adopted somebody. Great, really nice guy. More of a punk rock type guy. Had the chain out of his pocket, spiked hair, but he was really nice guy that was easy to be around. And we ended up working together for years after that, and everything worked out exactly as they had planned, in the sense that after about 6 months, he learned how to tint at no expense to my own other than time. And they came back to me and they're like, hey, Josh is telling us that he now knows how to tint, and from what we hear, you should be able to pay him by now. And I was like, actually, yeah, it's perfect timing. I was confident. Obviously, it was still scary because I wasn't used to writing that check every 2 weeks. And this was, again, in 2008, as the economy was starting to dip. But nevertheless, they weaned me off of them paying his paycheck, and I had him work for the organization for 3 years after that, I think.
Yeah. And so a lot of the clients in our coaching program, they're very small shops. They want to grow. They're typically doing it all themselves. Typically, I see those people cap out at about 150,000 in revenue, and it's very difficult and scary for them to hire someone. And they're also like caught in the middle, like they don't know if they should hire someone administrative side. And if they do, is that person really going to have enough work when they're just booking for one installer, but they also can't install and answer the phones at the same time? Or do they hire an installer first? And do they hire someone with experience and take the chance at paying a higher wage and bringing someone on that could potentially have bad habits? Or do they train someone? There's pros and cons to each.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you guys. Most of us in this industry start off as installers and fall into becoming a business owner. Or we realize it's so easy to be in business for ourselves. There's such a small buy-in that we choose to go that route. This isn't exactly the route I took. I purchased the business, but I wasn't a business person. I had no business experience. Matter of fact, my mom asked me, what makes you think you know how to run a business? And I said that was the cool thing. Aaron was going to show me, the person I bought the business from. Well, he wasn't a very sophisticated business person either. Most of us aren't in this industry. So to be a great leader, very little leadership skills and very little business knowledge. That's the first challenge, because it's hard to attract great team members when you're not a great leader. Matter of fact, I think it's next to impossible. And that's the beginning of the end, because really what everyone needs is a great team member. But you can't find a great team member if you're not a great leader. So what needs to happen first? I believe that everyone needs to pick up a leadership book and the 25 leadership hacks. Okay, these are the 25 things that we do nowadays that have helped us grow the organization that we now have after going through all the trials and tribulations. And we can talk about those more later. But I think a lot of people just overlook the challenge of leadership. And think of leadership as being a role model. Are you a role model? Are people inspired to take direction from you? Not from task to task, but more or less to be led by you. Are you taking them where they want to go in the big picture of life? And do you have the results to show them that you have the ability to lead them? That's where I think most people in our industry come up short, because they forget that to really lead a team well, you have to be an influence to them.
Yeah. And to tack on to that, like you said, a lot of these people are installers. They're getting busy. They have clients coming in the door. They're at that point where they feel like they need to grow because they're capped out just doing it all themselves. But they don't have the foundation to sustain a team member. And there's some things that you can't just go out and do. Like, you can't have a lot of success and wealth when you're a one-man shop. These people typically, don't have a lot of financial backing. They don't have that much experience managing or leading a team. So what we recommend to the clients that we coach that are where we were back in 2008 is do absolutely everything that you can to set a solid foundation for bringing someone on, because there's things that you just can't do overnight, but there are some things that you can put in place and work towards to make your business set up for success for adding team members. And that is personally developing as much as you can. It's literally a sprint. So the more content you consume, the more you're reading, the more you're actively practicing what you're learning. Those are all great things, being in shape, working out. But then there's also the operational side. When you're just one person, all the information about what you do is in your head. So people think, oh, I'm going to have to train an installer. They're just thinking about the installation. But what about how you guys answer the phones, how we book appointments, how we send out estimates, how we greet clients? All of those should be out of your head and on paper. So your business is set up as much like a big business, even though it's not.
I want to add to that, and that is the strategy. What is the strategy of the company?
The vision.
What is the vision of the company? What do you actually sell? I always ask people, what does McDonald's sell? They usually answer hamburgers. That's not true. We all know that McDonald's hamburgers suck. We all know that they don't grow mold if you leave it on the table because they're not real. There was that movie, Ava just reminded me about it earlier, but what was that movie that talked about? Yeah, the documentary about the fries and whatnot.
How much preservatives are in them?
Yeah, but we all know McDonald's isn't good for you. But nevertheless, they sell convenience, right? Walmart sells one-stop shop. I mean, at a lot of their superstores, you can literally have your oil change, your tires done, grocery shop, linens, buy an iPhone, and get diapers all at the same place. Like, that's what they sell, is convenience, again, by making it a one-stop shop, okay? Everyone in our industry, they just go towards quality. That's what we sell, is quality, because that's what they are. They're installers, generally speaking, and so that's what they're focused on, is the quality of the install. Going back to what we were talking about, the lens that I'm always looking through is, can you attract someone great? Can you attract someone that wants to work for your company? Because obviously you have competition, which are other employers. Are they going to choose you as a company to put food on their table, to be consistent, not be late on a paycheck? Or are they going to choose X company? That's what you got to look at first, because we hear all so often, nobody wants to work anymore. People are lazy. This generation is so much different. And it's like, I don't necessarily buy into all that. I think it's always us as the leaders.
Yeah, and the reality is that we're not going to attract anyone that's ahead of us in life. So we're looking at a pool of people.
How did I attract you?
So we're looking at a pool of people that are typically behind where we're at. And if someone is deciding between like us and Target, for example, and we're offering the same pay rate and they actually have a family and financial obligations, they're probably going to go with Target. So typically you're attracting people that, don't have a family. They're probably still getting some support from their parents. They're probably still trying to figure out their career, which means this person isn't really that serious.
Yep.
And so,
But then they go and blame it on that person who's not that good. They hire the $19 an hour person that's 19 years old. They don't perform well, and then they blame it on that person for not performing well. It's like you got what you were able to get. You got what you attracted.
yeah.
I mean, if you could attract someone great, that would be literally the best thing that someone can do. And so what I teach is how to position yourself to attract great talent. I have 17 team members that are rock stars. But it didn't start out that way. Like every time we let someone go and rehire someone, we upgrade.
Yeah. And so, it's going to be hard no matter what, but you can do things to set yourself up for success, like the personal development, obviously have as many policies and procedures on paper, prepare yourself, have a clean work environment. I mean, so many shops don't even care to clean up and have a nice facility. That's one thing we did have, a nice clean shop to work in.
Which again is when you're hiring someone, think of yourself as going on a date with them, meaning you're trying to make the best first impression. When you go on a first date, you've got cologne on, you're well manicured, your clothes look good, you clean out your car, you clean up your house just in case they come over after. Like that's what it should be like when you're looking at hiring someone. And I think a lot of people drop the ball right there. And you said have things down on paper, which I think is super important, but even more so than that, I think you need to have 4 things memorized. I think you need to have your core values memorized, which for us is help others succeed, follow words with actions, take pride in your work, and never stop improving. I think you need to have your specific differentiator memorized, which for us is our 100% money back guarantee that says if you're not happy with the workmanship or the service, you simply don't pay. And I think you need to have what you sell memorized, which for us is an experience. We do that by making people feel good. Why? Because it makes us feel good and it's free. And then lastly, a basic phone script. Thank you for choosing quality. This is Austin. How can I best serve you? And just by interviewing someone and having those things memorized, they're going to take you more serious than the last guy they worked for. Because I can almost guarantee you that the last guy they worked for didn't have anything memorized other than things that were just natural for him to say that he has said so many times over the years, but nothing that he formulated and intentionally sat down and memorized.
And then the other key thing, which is super, super important and is one of the leadership hacks, and we really fell short on this for the first 5 years, is you're working in close proximity to this person. It's just you and them, your first team member, your first couple team members, and you start to befriend them. And that's just natural, especially since a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with, they're typically in their 20s, maybe early 30s. You're probably going to attract someone that's similar age or a little bit younger than you. You're working side by side. You're exchanging jokes. You're talking about the weekend. You're hanging out after work. And it just becomes this friend relationship. And then resentment starts to build because when you actually have to enforce being the owner of the business and differentiating yourself, it becomes like muddy water.
Yeah, I like what you said there as far as it's natural. Because one of the analogies I always use is a lot of people that are just getting started, and for years I was in this position, we're swimming against the current. So when she says it's natural, that would be like getting in a river and just floating with it, right? That's natural, to just float with the current of the river. Whereas when you're just getting started to implement these things, it feels like you're swimming against the current, or you're swimming across the river to get to the other side. It's not easy, but you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to get taken away by the current, or you're going to get taken away by what's natural. And everything is especially more difficult when you only have a few team members. When you only have 1, 2, 3, 4 people in very close proximity, it's very challenging to not talk about the weekends and share jokes and things of that nature. Now, don't confuse this with being friendly. Obviously, you want to be friendly, but what I suggest is that you imagine yourself being a professional football coach. That's the type of relationship that we want to have with our team. We want to be a mentor, we want to be a coach to them, and we want to be professional while still being friendly, respectful, and showing appreciation and admiration. So when you only have a few team members, it's challenging because there's a lot of things in the 25 leadership hacks that feel awkward at first. Even having a morning huddle will feel awkward when you only have 2 team members and it's you 3 and you're in a 1500 square foot, 2000 square foot shop and you guys work together on the same car anyways. It's like, do we really need to stand in a circle and have a morning huddle? You do, because you need to build that repetition and that habit so that when you go to interview someone else, it's already established and it's already a part of the protocol. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah, and also just, when it comes to setting the standards and the foundation, one thing that comes to mind is like being very disciplined in your business operations, like having a set payday, not having untraditional ways you're paying the person. We have people that pay by the week or pay by the job, and it just doesn't really feel like a real position. So, know exactly what your pay structure is, have set paydays, have a employee technically in California it has to be called employee handbook, but a team member handbook that spells out your sick policies, your vacation policies. I mean, you can get templates that are to code on rocketlawyer.com, very inexpensive, but those things need to be put in place. I mean, team members need to know exactly when they're getting paid, what they're getting paid, what sick time and vacation they're allocated, etc.
That's such a good point, how you said they're not going to take it like a real position. Mm-hmm. And the word I like to use is casual. Because if you treat your business casually and you're paying under the table and you give them cash one week and check another week and everything you do is kind of casual, you dress casual, you talk casual, then wouldn't you agree that it's normal for them to treat it casual, show up 15 minutes late? A lot of times we want our team to take it seriously before we do. Like a lot of people want to be financially successful before they start investing. That makes no sense. You have to lead the way by being one step ahead of the game, meaning you need to treat your business a little bit more serious. You need to treat it with more sophistication for it to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's an evolution. You obviously you're not going to do everything perfectly by the books from the get-go. But it's an evolution, you evolve, but the sooner you do it and the more diligent you are and disciplined you are about putting things in place, the quicker it's going to go.
And I got to say, one of the most important contributing factors to being successful at doing what we're doing, swimming against the current and treating your business as if it's bigger than it actually is so that it can get to that place, is picking and choosing who you spend your time with. Like, again, if you're always hanging out with people that think like you and act like you, then it's going to be even harder to swim against the current and be more sophisticated and take everything more seriously and spend your personal time building the business. Whereas if you're hanging out with people who are doing those types of things on the weekends and with their spare time, it's going to be very easy. So you can create your own current by paying attention to who you spend your time with and what you are allowing into your mind. Because we all think of diet as the things we put in our mouth, but what type of diet do you have for the things you put in your mind? Are you listening to books? Are you listening to educational podcasts regularly? Are you hanging around people that have a positive influence, that have what you want? That's what I mean. You can be around someone that's positive and in a good mood, but do they have what you want? Can they help you get to where you want to go? Mm-hmm. And by hanging out with team members, generally speaking, that's not going to help you accomplish that.
So I want to talk about kind of like the process of just getting ready for your first team member, doing as much personal development, being disciplined and diligent, having your operational aspects of the business set up like a big business, and then you're already at capacity by yourself. I always recommend having a safety net fund for hiring a new person, because even if you hire someone experienced, it's costly. I mean, if you're going to do it all by the books, you're going to have a whole new insurance bill, which is workers' comp. So just that alone, uniforms, there's going to be some sort of training, acclimation period regardless. So you want to have that safety net. Once you're at that point, then, setting yourself up for success in the interview process. And so what we do for our process is, number one, set up a very clear, descriptive job description, going over pay rate, benefits, all of the aspects of the position, criteria, etc. and then posting it on Indeed. We use the free platform on Indeed. Once you get applicants, you can review the applicants, vet the applicant. I always do a phone screen, which preferably is a video phone screen. Then if they pass that, then they come in for a paid working interview. We love doing the paid working interview. Anyone can act great for a 30-minute, hour-long interview, but to show up on time, to see how they interact with our team, see how they take constructive criticism, see how they grade their own performance while they're here is super important. Then once they pass the working interview, that's basically when our job starts as far as preparing an offer. We do a full onboarding on day one. They know where their breaks are, where the restroom is, where to park, who they'll be working with. They have like a new hire buddy. So we have all those things in place so that we set them up for success from the very beginning. So we hire slow.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that the working interview is for them to also see and feel our culture and see if it's a good fit for them. And it's a date. So it's a two-way thing. Like, we're seeing if they're going to be a good fit for our team, and they're seeing if we're going to be a good fit for their goals. And we have had people in the middle of the working interview be like, this isn't going to work, because they were expecting it to be more casual. They were expecting it to be easier. And you guys, you got to remember that most people watching this podcast are competing with the big box stores, your Targets, Costco's, Walmart's, Home Depot's, Best Buy's, as far as the pay rate. The only difference is they offer benefits and there's a lot less pressure. Okay, so when you work in a big box store, it's a lot easier to hide out in an aisle and do the bare minimum. You don't have a lot of pressure to develop into becoming the best version of yourself. And in our organization, there is a lot of peer pressure to become the best version of yourself over time. And so the people that, in our organization at least, that really want to develop themselves, they fit great here. The people that really rather do the bare minimum and see what they can get by with, they don't last here. And so a lot of times people will weed themselves out from the working interview.
Yeah, and that goes, like you mentioned, people walking out, and the same thing goes where halfway through or a couple hours in, I've told the person, thank you for your time, not going to be a great fit, but all that time we spend, and we pay about $150 per working interview, plus all my time calling candidates, etc., getting the listing ready. But all of that time spent up front is way less expensive than hiring someone, onboarding just to have them quit 2 weeks later, or you fire them 2 weeks later. I mean, there's paperwork that you have to file with hiring, and dealing with last checks, turning in keys, uniforms that went unused. I mean, it's such a big expense when we hire someone and then have to let them go right after.
And that's not to mention the leadership aspect of it. If we just hire just anyone and let them into our team, the rest of our team is going to be irritated. They're going to be frustrated. We can risk killing the energy in the room or in the building because they're haphazard, they're not as serious, and they're not as committed to self-improvement. Like, we can tell that within a day, you guys. We can tell if somebody just walks past a piece of trash on the ground, doesn't pick it up, leaves the toilet seat up. Like, we can tell if someone's just careless about the way they live and the way they operate. And so for us to just hire someone without doing our due diligence, that is going to impact the way that our team looks at us as leaders.
And talking about or touching on, do you hire someone with no experience or do you hire someone with experience? We used to hire team members with no experience, and we train them because, well, one, there's not that big of a market in general, and two, the pay rate didn't attract anyone with experience. And so now I can't even remember the last team member that we've hired with no experience.
I think that you get what you attract. I don't think that everyone could get someone with experience. So it's nice to say, but you're going to get what you attract. I think that's one of the main takeaways from this podcast is become attractive to someone that has experience. Now, if you need the list of things to do, to become that person, reach out to us. We'll give you the list. But, like Micaela mentioned, are you dressing your best? Is your shop clean? Are you conducting the interview as professionally as possible? Are you punctual when it comes to the interview? Are you organized? Are you conducting yourself in a professional way, showing that you have the company headed in the right direction as far as having the specific differentiator, the core values, and what you sell memorized? Like, can you clearly articulate what the goals are for the company? Those are just some of the things that you can do to attract someone that has experience. What does your Google listing look like? Because just like with customers, that's one of the first things that a candidate is going to look at is your Google listing, your website. So I always say that when we do something for our customers, we're really doing a 2-for-1 because we're trying to attract talent to work in our organization just as much as we're looking to attract team members. Like, we need both equally. Matter of fact, one of the things I always preach is that our team comes before our customers, and that's for our customers' benefit. So the happier our team is to be here, the better they're going to serve our customers. But from a marketing perspective, like when we run ads, we're also trying to subliminally attract team members. I want to have the coolest ads so that people want to work here. And our name is just in front of those people. And we do have a lot of walk-in people dropping off resumes, looking for jobs. In another podcast, we're going to talk about what I think the 2 things are that you need to be in the top 1% of shops.
And I mean, just to paint a picture of things that happen, because I mean, there's definitely some funny stories from like us trying to grow our team. I mean,
they're funny now.
Yeah. But like, I mean, some of our team members we went out partying with. One of our team members showed up to work in slippers one day. Another one of our team members, he was in the back of the shop paper macheing a skirt out of application tape that we use for decals. I mean, it's just like nonsense stuff that has happened before our company's evolved to where it's at now. I mean, we had someone come in for a working interview, and they were supposed to be doing a working interview for a sign position or for a tint installer position, but they ended up pressing shirts, answering phones. You and I were both scheduled for off-site jobs, so we weren't even there to evaluate them during the working interview. I mean, it was literally an absolute disaster.
Yep. And, I can't stress this enough. The number one thing that anybody in a leadership role can do is get unbroke. So what do I mean by that? Not having to wear golden handcuffs and make every decision based upon whether or not it's going to bring in revenue. And like I said at the beginning, it's very hard, if not impossible, to be a good leader when you're broke because you're always thinking about money. And that comes into play with a lot of different things. If you're constantly having to think about money, you're going to constantly be stressed out. If you're constantly stressed out, it's no fun to work there. If it's no fun to work there, it's just a matter of time before people start leaving. So what does that mean for small business owners? That means that they need to have the skill of delayed gratification, and they need to be able to make money without spending it on personal things so that they can get ahead and not be living check to check and not be living team member to team member. Everything does get easier, and you're not swimming against the current when you're not having to make every decision based upon whether or not it's going to make money.
Yeah, so, as we started developing as a company and making changes and making course corrections, we eventually did start to get traction. We had some team members that could actually do work, and then we had one team member specifically that was like a turning point in the fact that he could actually perform work, but he also understood the company vision and the culture, and we were kind of able to build up the culture around him. So that was a super pivotal point. So like you mentioned, just getting that traction, getting a little bit momentum, it does take time, but it will eventually get easier.
And what I've learned about myself, especially in the early years, is I would hire people that I would want to be friends with. And, I still do that. What you want to do is hire someone that you get along with, but you have different personality types. You don't need someone for your first, second, or third hire, I don't think, that has the same personality as you. So I'm an ideas guy. I don't need another guy that has a bunch of ideas himself. I needed an implementer, which Micaela is the ultimate implementer. But even still, some of the best team members I've ever had are ones that I get along with really well, enjoy being with a lot, but they're not like me. And, like me is a vague thing, but now I can honestly say everyone in our shop is way smarter than I am. But for a long time, I had a lot of people that were just like me, and that's in some ways a compliment, in some ways it's not a compliment. But now, what am I trying to say? Like I said, everyone is smarter. Everyone would have not been sitting at this. Everyone that's on our team now probably wouldn't have sat at the same table as me in high school. They would have been sitting at the smart kids table.
Yeah, and then, one thing a piece of advice that would have helped me out a lot, obviously there's the personal development, the operational, etc. But I would try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I would hire people, but in the back of my head have like a gut feeling that there was a red flag about them, or we would have a team member and I would have a gut feeling it's not going to work for whatever reason. And I would still be like, oh, well, maybe we can make it work. Maybe it's just me. And now I'm so confident in who's going to work and who's not going to work that it's very black and white for me. Like, there could be just a comment that someone says during their working interview and it's like, nope, they're not going to work here. Or, we had someone do a working interview for a tint assessment, and the tint job did not turn out great, but he would have had a way better chance in consideration if he had rated himself adequately and said, hey, I'm just super nervous. This isn't my best work. I would rate it a 5 or 6. But instead he rated himself a 10, and it's like that, there's creases there. Like, that was an immediate red flag. No. So there's red flags that you'll start to see, and my recommendation would be, if you get a feeling about someone, or a comment rubs you a wrong way, or they did something that just didn't sit right, follow your gut feeling. It's usually right.
You get what you attract, though. Like, what does someone do that feels like that's not going to work, that person's not going to work, but they can't attract someone better?
You hire the best person that you can attract, and you wait as long as possible to interview people, and hopefully you get that person that you're going to basically get lucky with. I mean, so Ryan, we basically got lucky with.
Well, he didn't start off great, but he ended up being great.
Mm-hmm. Which is super uncommon.
Yeah, that's super uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
But so the trap is that people only want to hire once they're plenty busy to afford them.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time you're that busy, you don't have time to properly interview. You don't have time to properly onboard. It's the day they start, you expect too much from them, right? Like, there's an onboarding period for everyone, no matter how good they are, okay? So let me give you this analogy, and this is the first analogy that just popped into my head right here, right now. But say you're in a relationship, okay? And it's going to be the perfect relationship. Do you guys fart in front of each other right away? No. No, you don't. No one does, I don't think.
Yeah.
But so that's like the truth. Like, even with a great team member, even if they're great, they're going to take some time to get acclimated. Just like in any relationship, you're not going to do some of those things in front of each other, as funny as it sounds. And those are the analogies I like to use. In addition, another favorite analogy that I'll leave you with, it's like, if you're just getting started in leadership, it's like planting a tree. And you're planting the tree because you eventually want shade. And you want to be able to have a picnic in the shade. Okay? To grow your team is going to take about as long as it takes to grow that tree into a big enough tree to have shade to sit underneath. About 4 to 5 years. So there's just no way to do it any faster that I know. It took me 17 years. So I'm thinking that anyone that listens to what we're saying and takes the advice we have can do it in a lot less time. But it's still, no matter what, you cannot do it overnight. No matter how good you are, you cannot do it overnight. But there are things that you can take action on and start working towards tomorrow, and that's what the leadership hack's for. And that's why I encourage everyone to take physical fitness seriously, because it's something that you can take action on today.
Yeah, and the other thing that you just reminded me of is, being consistently direct with people, don't let things go and let things progress and build up resentment, because resentment's probably building up on both parties. One thing that...
Well, not only that, excuse me for interrupting, but if you let things go for so long and then bring it up, they think you're just bringing it up because you're having a bad day. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, you've been fine with that. Why all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. We've all had that experience in our relationship too, where it's like, well, you didn't bring that up until I had an issue, or you didn't bring it up until you were upset, which obviously you don't want to bring things up with team members when you're upset, but even still, you want to be consistently transparent and not let things go and then let those things become normal, and then it comes across as all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you're concerned about this or upset about this.
Yeah, so if you have a team member that you, in the back of your mind, don't really think is going to work out, what I would recommend moving forward with any new team member is being very clear on expectations from the beginning, and also consistently training on your policies and procedures, because one area that I doubted myself in our earlier years is someone would do something wrong and I would doubt myself, well, did they fully understand what they were supposed to do? Did I make it clear enough? Is this partially my fault? Did they know that they were doing something wrong? And so what we've done a lot better job at now is we set very clear expectations up front, so it's cut and dry whether someone did or didn't follow a policy and procedure. So like, for example, if someone's sick, they are required to call, or if they're running late, they're required to call. It's something we train on often. It's something that's a part of the hiring and onboarding. Everyone knows this policy. So if you decide to text and not call, you're deliberately breaking the policy, and it's very clear.
Yep. And then they need to be held accountable, which we'll probably talk about on the next episode.
Yeah, so we'll talk about accountability, kind of changing course and how we did grow to build a successful culture, and the leadership hacks as well.
Yep. So that's it for today. We'll see you on the next one.